What is up? I just got done playing the PTR on Season of Discovery for about 8 hours, and I wanted to give my thoughts on what went down. I actually cleared BWL twice. Once in a 40-man, once in a 20 to 25-man, and then we cleared ZG once as well. So first, let's get right into it. I want to talk about BWL. There are 5 buffs to make the raid more difficult. Black, green, blue, red, and bronze. You talk to Nefarian, and you can add difficulty to the raid. The black is probably the hardest one because it adds new mechanics to each boss fight. Some of them might be from SOM, some of them are completely new, and they do make the encounter much more difficult. We killed a few bosses with and without the black buff, and I can say it's a night and day difference when you are doing this raid with the black buff on. Especially if you're doing it with 20-man, which I'll get into later. Green will pick a random person, and they'll have to run to a corner and drop the poison in the corner. Blue is a group soak mechanic. You get a blue beam of light above you, and then everyone around you, like around 5 people, have to go around you and soak the damage. Otherwise, the person with the blue beam will get one shot. The red is grievous wounds from retail, which if anyone drops below 90% health, they have to get healed above 90% health, or they'll take ticking fire damage. And then the bronze one I think might be bugged, but it can speed you up or slow you down based upon the random buff that comes out like once every minute or so. However, the slow didn't really slow you down, so it was really more like a buff. You just randomly got a speed buff. I think that's more helpful than hurtful, so I think that the bronze one might be a little bit bugged right now. Ultimately, if you choose 3 of these, you get 1 extra piece of loot from each boss. From what I saw, 2 pieces of loot are dropping from each boss, but if you took at least 3 of these buffs, then 1 extra piece of loot was dropping. There's no benefit of doing 4 or 5 of these buffs. However, we decided to do 5 in our raids just to see if it was possible to do all 5 of them and to kind of get a feel of the extra mechanics. The difficulty of Blackwing Lair, I would say, if you're doing the black buff, it's extremely hard to do with 20 people. We wiped a lot on some of these bosses trying to do the fight a certain way in just full Molten Core gear, world buffs and everything. So I would say we had a pretty good geared group as well. So 20 people doing a 3 buff was pretty tough. I would say that the easiest 3 buffs were bronze. Green is probably easier than blue, is because one person just has to run out with the green buff and drop it in the corner, whereas blue, like 4 or 5 people have to do a mechanic instead of just one person. So I kind of changed my philosophy on the green buff. However, if you have one really like just bad random pug that gets the green buff and doesn't run out, they could just drop it right in the middle of your fight and kind of screw over the pull. So that I'll leave that up to you. If I had to do a 3 buff and it all gave the same loot, I probably wouldn't take the black. However, the black adds the new mechanics to the raid and it makes it more exciting. So I enjoyed doing that. I enjoyed doing the black buff today more than anything else. In conclusion, I'd probably take like bronze, red, and maybe green if I wanted to do a super easy 3 buff Blackwing Lair. Let's go over some of the new mechanics. First off, you have to enable the black buff to have any of these new mechanics. On the first boss, there's a large egg in the middle, which spawns a big dragon after you break about 10 eggs. Dragon has quite a bit of health, and you have to still manage killing the other adds while killing this, so it did make it slightly more difficult, but you pretty much have no chance of wiping on this boss. On the second boss, we wiped a lot on this one on the 25-man group. Burning Adrenaline goes out way more frequently, and the tank will blow up at some point in this fight. Unless your damage is just insane and you're 40 mana and just killing it in like 10 seconds. But Burning Adrenaline will kill a large amount of your group. So I don't know how we're going to handle world buffs on this fight, or if you're going to do the old strategy where you put down a portal and whenever you get Burning Adrenaline, you take the port so you don't blow up. Kind of thing like we do in hardcore. But this boss has a lot of health. He's going to start at 60% health, and a lot more Burning Adrenaline, like I said, are going to be going out, and your tank will die at some point. So you need a tank to be another tank to be second on threat to be ready to go in once he blows up. Yeah, it took us a few pulls, but we did end up killing Velstraz with a 25-man group. 40-man group was no problem because we just nuked it. 25-man was a little bit tougher. On the third boss, this boss will port to the middle of the room around 30% health, and then you have to fight your way through whelps as well as the traps, and then he will knock melee back with like a stomp ability. So it was just it wasn't harder. It was just took us a little bit longer to kill him because we had to move from one side of the room to the other. Fire Maul is interesting. Every time you get hit by fire damage, you'll now be given a stack of nature as well. When you get to 10 stacks of nature, you'll explode, doing damage to anybody around you. The way that we handled this was we separated our groups into smaller stacks so that when we blow up, we only hit like 3 or 4 people. So it was actually healable damage. A lot of people still died on this fight. Actually, the more people that died, the easier this fight became because it was less damage going out and it just took longer to kill the boss. So ultimately, I think half of our raid died and then we still ended up killing it because it made the fight much easier. Good luck doing this one on a 40-man. It makes it a lot harder with the nature stacks. I think it gets a lot easier, though, the more that you're resisting these fire pulses, the fire stacks that come out, because if you resist the fire stack, you also resist the nature stack. Also, we didn't really have fire protection potions or nature protection pots, and I imagine that would make this fight easier as well. Ebonrock and Flamegore now have to be killed at the same time, and they put stacking debuffs onto your raid, very similar to the 4 Horsemen fight in Naxxramas. These stacks cannot be bubbled off or petried. So as soon as you get to about 3 or 4 stacks, you need to move to the other side of the room and start DPSing the other boss. They also are Romeo and Juliet mechanics, so you need to kill them at the same time, which is a challenge because if you get to too many stacks and then they pull them together and then you'll die. If you get to 6 stacks, they'll just one-shot you. So there is one other strat, like if you have 40 or you have a really, really pumper group, you can just tank them both together at the same time, and it's a DPS race to see if you can kill them before they get to 6 stacks. Chromagus seemed a bit bugged with the black buff, so we weren't able to kill him. We pulled him a few times, and no matter what, there was threat issues, and people were dying, and it was just a little bit chaotic, so we ended up having to just drop the black buff, and then he pretty much became a tank and spank mechanic. You can no longer line of sight with the wall, so you pretty much just have to sit there and take the time lapses. And what we did was you had like one person that doesn't get the time, one person won't get the time lapse, so they just need to like lip or immunity and sort of just tank Chromagus for a second until the tank can pick him back up. Nefarian was pretty much the same without the black buff on. I didn't notice anything different. We ended up one-shotting Chromagus and Nefarian without the black buff on. So I would say all in all, I don't know. I'm going to have to go back in and hopefully get a group that can clear Chromagus whenever they work out those bugs. But this the black buff, all in all, my review on it is just that it made the fights a little more exciting, much tougher, much more challenging. And I really love the flex raid system in Season of Discovery where you can take more people to make the fight easier. So I like that Blizzard went in this direction. And this was actually an accident from P4 when Molten Core allowed you to zone in with more than 20 people, and the community ended up liking it. And so this is something that they just decided to carry on in Blackwing Lair and ZG as well. It's a flex 20-man that you can take 40 players, and then ZG is a flex 10-man where you can take 20 if you want. So yeah, I think that the devs hit it out of the park with this idea. And the amount of loot that drops is interesting because only 2 pieces are dropping when you don't have any buffs. And then when you have all 3 buffs, it's 3 pieces dropping, which is not a lot. I mean, if we're killing Ragnaros on like Heat 3, you're getting like 7 or 8 pieces of loot. So this is drastically reduced compared to what we have now. The new items that drop in the raid are awesome. I like the direction that they're going with some of the set bonuses and the new legendary items, as well as a unique weapon for each individual class and spec. I think it's really fun to go for like unique items, and like having that one item in the raid that like a lot of people want will keep the game active and it'll keep people raiding for longer. So these type of ideas are awesome. I think that this is the right direction to go for Classic. Moving on to ZG. The loot was disabled in ZG, so we weren't able to see any of the loot. I will say that the trash was extremely easy on ZG. I think I could probably solo this trash. Not even kidding. It's that easy. The boss fights were also a joke. It really felt like we just zoned into the normal version of like the vanilla version of ZG, but we're like 10 times stronger, and we were just absolutely destroying these bosses. We ended up deciding to leave 2 priests alive and go straight to Hakar. And there is an added mechanic for each priest that you leave alive, but it still felt like an absolute joke. I mean, next time I would totally just go straight to Hakar, do a 4 priest, and then just get the extra loot for doing that. Hopefully they buff hopefully they make ZG harder. I know it's a catch-up raid, but it was just too easy. That's my overall review on where ZG is at right now. A lot of the loot and set bonuses in the game seem pretty interesting from this patch. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully they work out some of the bugs with like Chromagus. And other than that, that's my 2 cents on what is going down on the PTR right now. So hop in there, give it a shot. Let me know what you think about it. And I will keep you guys updated on any PTR changes in the future. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button. I will see you next time.